Ma'am, good afternoon, ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, Vinalia, you are audible.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sheila? Unmute and respond.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Ma'am, can you hear me? Hello?
There is some background noise.
Ma'am, good afternoon, ma'am. Sheila here. Can you hear?
Good afternoon to all of you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Dr.MGR Educational and Research Institute, Madurai, Chennai. Dr.MGR Educational and Research Institute, Madurai, Chennai.
Madam has joined.
Dr.
VC madam has
MGR
joined.
Education.
No, ma'am,
Hello?
not it, ma'am. No, ma'am, not it.
Not yet, ma'am. Not yet, ma'am.
Not yet.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll call her. Sir has joined. Balan sir, I called him.
Balan sir not yet joined, ma'am. I think
Ravi sir
yeah,
has joined.
Ravi sir have joined.
Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, madam. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. I'll call VC madam now.
Bala sir
Pavai, you check madam has joined. I called her, she said she's joining.
Checking, ma'am, not at joined, ma'am.
Well, Balan sir has joined. Pavai,
Ma'am, there is a name with Balakrishnan. We don't know whether that name is sir's name.
No, Balan Krishnan illa.
Okay.
I called him, he said I am joining.
Both are not at joined, ma'am. Cut.
Sir, Balan Radhakrishnan sir, you joined from Malaysia.
No, ma'am, not at join, ma'am.
Not at joined, ma'am.
அவர் மெசேஜ் பண்ணிருக்காரு. You just check up. He is not able to open the mic.
Sir, kindly raise your hand because we can able to see N. Balakrishnan. Is that you, sir?
You just open and see the mic.
ஆர் பாலன் இவர் தானே? எங்க போச்சு ஆர் பாலன்? Sir, given panelist permission, kindly accept it, sir.
Okay, can. Dr. Balin here. Sorry, I
welcome,
was
sir.
joining
Welcome,
as
sir.
attendee, sir, just now. Thank you
No
so much.
problem. No problem, sir. Thank you. May you check VC madam has joined, huh?
Not yet, ma'am.
Pavai will start now. Some signal issues. She said she'll join in between. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
We'll start. In நடுவுல வந்தாங்கன்னா மேடம்க்கு அனௌன்ஸ் பண்ணி அவங்கள பேச விட்டுருங்க. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Shall I start, ma'am?
Yes, Minali.
The general note, due to unavoidable situation, there is a change in the resource person of today's session. Instead of Dr. Kankipat Srinivas Rao sir, Dr. P. Ravichandran sir will be the resource person for today's session. The topic of the session remains the same, significance of questionnaire and its framework. Knowledge becomes power only when we put it into use. Knowledge is the key to the door of opportunity, achievement, success, and wealth. I welcome one and all present here to this wonderful afternoon session, the first day of faculty development program on research methodology, organized by the Faculty of Education in association with the Academic Staff College, Dr.MGR Educational and Research Institute. To begin this program orderly, I now request you all to rise to your feet to invoke our Mother Tamil, Tamil Thai Varthu.
நீராறும் கடலுடுத்த நிலமடந்தை கெழிலொழுகும் சீராறும் மதனமென திகழ்வரத கண்டமிதில் எக்கணமும் அதில் சிறந்த திராவிடனல் திருநாடும் தக்க சிறு திரை நுதலும் தரித்தனரும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போல் அனைத்துலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிழமை திறம் வியந்து செயல் மறந்து வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே.
Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. To start up this session, I request Dr. K. Geeta Ma'am, Principal, Faculty of Education, Dr. MGR Educational and Research Institute, to deliver the welcome address.
Good afternoon to one and all connected with us. Respected participants, invited chief guest and guest of honor, faculty members, students, ladies and gentlemen, our warm welcome to all connected with us in this international faculty development program. Welcome you all to this August gathering on behalf of Faculty of Education, Dr. MGR Educational Research Institute, Chennai, on the occasion of this 5-day virtual international faculty development program on research methodology, was successfully arranged with the support of management, students, friends, and colleagues. On behalf of Faculty of Education, I extend my gratitude and thanks to our Honorable Founder Chancellor A.C. Shanmugam and President Engineer A.C.S. Arun Kumar for their constant support and encouragement. My hearty welcome to all the participants from various colleges and universities. Happy to welcome all the academicians, research scholars, and all the executives from other universities. Your interest encourages to conduct FDP like this. I'm very happy to share more than 1,400 registration is there. So thank you for all your support from other colleges. I am elected to welcome Dr. Bolan Radhakrishnan, Associate Professor, Faculty of Psychology and Education, University of Malaysia. My warm welcome you, sir, for accepting our invitation in spite of your
Thank you,
schedule. My warm welcome to all the speakers and of all these 5 days. First, today's my special welcome to Dr. P. Ravichandran, Director of Research and HOD of Computer Science Department, Silicon City College, Bangalore. Thanks a lot, sir. On the last moment, we had some crisis. You adjusted, and today's session we have allotted. Thank you very much for your acceptance. And I am immensely pleased to welcome day 2 speaker, Mr. R. Vivek, lecturer, Department of Secondary and Tertiary Education, Faculty of Education, the Open University of Sri Lanka. Third day, Mr. Dr. M. Vijayakumar, librarian, Pondicherry University. Day 4, Dr. K. Thiago, assistant professor, School of Education, Central University of Kerala. Day 5, Dr. Gopu Kumar, University Library, Digital University, Kerala. So my hearty welcome to all the 5 speakers who was accepted in spite of their busy schedule. My special welcome to our energetic Vice Chancellor, Dr. Geeta Lakshmi Madam. Thank you for your support, Madam. Thank you very much. Welcome you, Madam. Since some net issues, she is unable to join, otherwise she would have given the inaugural address. My welcome to all the dignitaries, registrar, additional registrar, joint registrar, and executives from all the campus for their timely support. I am enormously pleased to welcome Dr. Malini Pandey, additional registrar, planning and development, Dr. MGR Educational Research Institute. I welcome Dr. Gomati, Dean, and Mrs. Vasanti, Additional Dean of Academic Staff College of our university, for their cooperation and support. Finally, I welcome all our MGR family, all deans, HODs, staff members, both teaching and non-teaching, and my dear students for your from various departments and other dignitaries. My hearty welcome to one present here. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Ma'am.
Thank you.
Now I'd like to call upon Dr. P. Sendamil Pavai Ma'am, Assistant Professor, Faculty of Education, Dr. MGR Educational and Research Institute, to give a brief note about the university.
Dr. MGR Educational and Research Institute, 95, Tamil Nadu, India, is recognized with the deemed to be university status and is graded as an autonomous body. It acquired the deemed university status in 2003 as Dr. MGR Educational and Research Institute as per orders of the University Grant Commission and the Ministry of Human Resources Development, Government of India. It is accredited by NAC with A grade and has received ISO certification 21001-2008 by TUV-SUD South Asia Private Limited. ACS Medical College and Hospital Velapanchavadi, Chennai, has been brought into a domain as a constituent unit of deemed university through MHRD notification in the year 2008. Currently, the university has flourished into 14 different faculties. More MOUs, patent, and funded projects are signed for having better industry institute tie-up and for knowledge upgradation of students and to equip them as industry fit. The university has an excellent track record in placements in leading software companies like TCS, IBM, Infosys, Accenture, and HCL, so on. Students take their internship in foreign countries sponsored by our university. To promote improvements in the quality and usefulness of education, the Faculty of Education was established in 2005 by Dr. MGR Educational and Research Institute, Madurai, Chennai. It is a co-educational institution offering 2 years B.Ed course with an aim to achieve professional values and to develop learning skills among the teacher educators by generating 4 C's: curiosity, creativity, competence, and compassion in order to supplement and complement NCTE. For more than a decade, that is from 2006 to 2022, the Faculty of Education as producing 100% results and 100% placement, and this has been possible due to relentless service by eminent and dedicated faculty members. Students of B.Ed are placed in various reputed schools like Velamal Group of Schools, Chaitanya Techno Schools, Chennai Public School, Shram Academy, and so on. That's a glimpse about our university. Now I request Mrs. Vigneshwari to introduce our chief guest.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Am I audible? Good afternoon to one and all present here. It's my pleasure, more than an honor, to introduce our chief guest, Dr. Balan Radhakrishnan, Associate Professor in Faculty of Psychology and Education, University Malaysia, Sabah. He specialized in Youth and Community Development Program in UMS. He also won World Inventor Award from Korea in 2013 in the field of research and education category for social sciences. His research focuses on youth, creativity, innovation, and intervention for social problems for youth. He is a member of the Malaysian Institute of Management and a member of the Malaysian Institute of Human Resource Management, formerly known as the Malaysian Institute for Personnel Management. Over the years, he has completed a considerable number of published researches on stress management, career development, creativity, and mental health, youth problems and life skills, and so on. It's a privilege to have such a renowned person in the midst of us. I'm immensely pleased to welcome you, sir. We are eagerly waiting to hear from you. Now the session is yours. Please, sir.
Okay, thank you so much, Doctor. And let me share. Is it? Can I share my slide? Or is it possible?
Sir,
Yes,
you accept our virtual bouquet we have shared.
Okay, so let me share my. You need to, Doctor. Can you please stop the slide, and I can share this one. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for Dr. K. Gita, the principal of the college, and all the respected delegates and students and all the international participants who are joining for today's afternoon. Thank you so much, Doctor, and also all the VC, the VC of the university, Dr.MGR College, and all the professors and universities from there. Let me share my slides. Can you see my slide, Doctor?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, now let me introduce my name first. Balan Radhakrishnan. I born in Malaysia and I studied in Malaysia, and I'm currently working as an associate professor in University Malaysia Sabah, which is Borneo side of Malaysia, as a lecturer in a field of psychology, and especially my focus is on youth development and also community development. Now, let us, I only have been given about 15 minutes to talk about what is exactly research methodology. And I think all of you are aware what is exactly and what is the importance of research and why we are discussing on research methodology, which is very key component in research. First of all, before we look into methodology, we need to understand. We need to understand why, who, how, when, and what is exactly is research about. And I think a lot of students are doing masters, PhD, even for degree level. So when we are talking about research, when you look into this picture, what you can see, maybe you can chat in the chat box. If I give you a different type of fish, and I given you different type of colors, and what you can see from this picture, anybody? If you can type in your chat box, what is the different? What is the different from the fish which I given a lot? I given about 9 fishes, and I give you something different. Which is the different, and why it's different? Who can tell me? Maybe some of you can chat in the chat box. What exactly you can see from the picture, and why do I give this picture? I cannot read from the chat box. Let me see your chat box. You know which way they're all the same and one is different. It's our mic and camera option. It's okay. Find out new solution. I think sample of population and all that. Okay. Okay, good. Very good ideas. Huh? Very good idea. But population and sample. Okay, very good. Okay, beyond that, because I wanted to show you a very creative, very innovative. No, the purpose when I give you this type of picture, first of all, what you have to do, you need to see very clearly. You have to be very focused, and the intention, your intention of your doing something. When you see different type of, I given you same type of fish, and I have given one different color. So in order for you to see the different color, what you have to do, your mind has to be very focused, and you have to be very attentive. These are the two words when we talk about research. Research is about focusing. So when you see different type of fish or same type of fish, I give you almost similar. I given you all similar type of fish, but different than here. But when you as a researcher, what you have to do with, number one, you need to be very focused. That is what research about. And second thing, you must be very attentive. So what type of research that you want to focus in, and how do you attentively look into that matter? Okay, now, so, and another question, when I, here, let me see, okay, so what is usually people say research method and research methodology. What's the difference, or is it similar, or it can be changed, used interchangeably? Anybody can give me a point? What's it? Why we call research method and what is research methodology? Why we need to learn both? And is it different or similar? Another question. Number one, the picture number one, I give it to you because I want to show you that when research means it's focused, and you have to be very attentively, you have to look into that. What are the differences? What are the similarities? And what is your research? That's number one. Now, another question which I want to pose it to everybody is, what is research method and what is research methodology? And why people are interchangeably using it? And what are the differences and what are the similarities? Anybody can just type in your chat box. So, okay, now, is it same or different? If it is same, what is the similarities? If it is different, what is that differences? And why people use it interchangeably, when we talk about research method and research methodology. Okay, now, when we look into method is a tool, methodology is a process. Wow, methodology is research analysis and method is a tool. Again and again, new search. Methodology is application. Okay, now, very good. Method, experiment, survey, difference. Method means technique we used for research. Very good, very true. So when I said about research, let us see the definitions which is given. Research method or technique refer to the method a researcher using in performing research operation. Thus, when we are talking about research methodology, we are going above, beyond that, not only talking about research method, but also consider the logic behind the method we used in the context of our research study, and explain why we are using a particular method or technique and why we are not using others, so that research results are capable of being evaluated either by the research himself or by others. So when I said only a research method, it's only a technique, which is maybe quantitative, qualitative. Later you will see all type of research methodology. Even 5 days you will be learning all the research techniques, method. But when I say about research methodology is going beyond that, I need to have justified. I need to have a logic understanding. I need a capable understanding and evaluate. That means again, it's go back to your focus of your research. Why I'm using a research methodology? So when I pose a question, what's the differences between research method or research methodology? Which you need to use carefully and correctly. So when I say research methodology, it's not only about the technique, but I have a justification. I have a view on what type of research that I'm using it. Why and what are the reasons I'm using the research methodology. Even a lot of students, when we look into their introduction, they're looking into their literature, no problem. But when it goes to the research methodology, there are a lot of technical issues. And that's why a lot of students fail to do whatever the focus, the research cannot be achieved because the research methodology are not being correctly used. That's why a lot of students, even now for 5 days of this lesson, we are giving it to you because in order for you to understand exactly what are the techniques which you need to use and correctly you need to use, because technique is very important. If you are failed in your technique, in your research methodology, you fail your research. That means your technical, your research introduction is perfectly good. Your research technique is perfectly good. Your introduction is very good. Your problems, your literature is perfectly. You have done a lot of literature, but when your research methodology is not being achievable, it's not correct according to your objective or your problem statement. What happened? Your data collection, your data analysis, and all that will be going to the drain. It's been not useful. That's why students or researchers, we need to be very focused on your research methodology. Okay, next. What are the steps for us to prepare the research methodology? Number one, focus on your aim and your objective. Again, a lot of students, when I try to evaluate their theses and PhD theses, and even a lot of theses from India, I'm evaluating. I'm looking first, what is your focus of your research and what are the objectives in your research? And of course, when we are talking about objective, we are talking about problem. Why and which reason the problem arises and why I need to do the research. You have to justify. And three, rationalize for selecting the particular of research method. Again, there are many methods which you need to be very carefully understand, evaluate them and use them correctly in order for you to answer your research objective. Number four, consider your audience, think how you will collect data for study, collection of data. Remember, method is about techniques. How do you collect data and how you analyze the data? And the last part, how do you interpret your data and how you make a decision? Even now, a lot of students, when I see them, they can do a wonderful research, very good type of research. But when I ask for interpretation, they fail to do that. They fail to do that. They don't know what is the implications and what are the conclusions of the research. They don't understand. Because why? Because you don't really understand what is your research objective and why you want to do. Because research is about solving problem. If you don't solve problem, and what is the purpose? So research objective can be achieved for two purposes: for your research, for academically purpose, or for practical implication. Some research is not being applied for applied research, but it's been used for academic development. For example, you want to develop a new theories, new module, new model. You can use your idea from your research. And some students, they use for practical use. Because of this component, I'm using my outcome of my research. I want you to apply to my society, to my community. So there are many implications that which you need to understand. Whether my research can apply for academical purpose or it also can apply for practical implications. That's why whenever you start your research, your journey of your research, your process of your journey, some of you have said research methodology is a process. When you start your research process, you must clearly understand why and why and which reason that I want to do and what my research can contribute. And number five, analyze the different type of data collections method. And the last one, analyze the different analysis techniques to the analysis of the collected data. So when we talk all this about the analyzing collections, maybe these 5 days you will be learning, you will be collecting a lot of information. But my humble request to all the researchers, especially for the students who are doing masters and PhD, spend some time to read about research methodology. What are the methods which you can use to apply, to use for your answering your objective. Okay, these are the techniques, types of research that you can later, maybe some of you will be learning later. Number one, exploratory research. Usually we use qualitative type, descriptive type of research which you can describe, explain. Action research, this is more on experimental, or some of you are very expert in experimental, I guess. And what type of action research? Because action research will help you to apply whatever that you have doing it, because you are taking your real respondent and you're doing it there. And some of you also doing policy-oriented research, which I think a lot of people are lacking, even including me. Because some research are very important to change of policy. If, like, for example, in government of India, what are the policies for help those are handicapped children, or those are poor children, or those are in a rural area? What are the policies for them to help them? Even, like, for example, even in sports, India are progressing well. Do they have a lot of equipment? Do they have a lot of facility? Do they have a lot of chances for them? So what your research can contribute to policy-oriented research, which is very, very, very important, very useful. And a lot of us are lacking on this policy-oriented research. So my suggestion, even some of you are doing PhD, and because to create a policy, it's not easy. It's not easy. So sometimes even like PhD students, you need to think carefully. Even if you finish your PhD paper, you need to think about how to your research outcome, your research implication can help for policy-oriented research, whereby your research is not only in the library, but it can be used for some people, or some of your sample, or your populations and all that. Even like India, there are many things that you can do, changes. Even in Malaysia, they're also trying to write a policy papers for how to make changes for unemployed students. What are the policies to make them happy? So these are the policy-oriented research which you can think and you can develop and you make it better. And correlational research, I think most of you are very aware with very correlational research, because a lot of people are very familiar with SPSS and all that. And correlational research are talking on relationship between independent and dependent, and it's easy because a lot of statistics when you can use. And next one, explanatory research. What are the how do you explanatory research to even this is like you explain from your research. Longitudinal research, this is also very very comprehensive research, because you're doing for long time of period to get mega data. Longitudinal study always can have a higher impact, because you're doing the same issues for long time of period with a lot of triangulations of data for longer period, and it can contribute something for better implication or practical application of your finding. This is a longitudinal research, but you talk to your supervisors or to your professors whether it's been enough time for you to do that. And next one is about fundamental and basic research method. This is what we talk about, very basic for if you're a degree or master. You talk about basic research method which you will be learning for 5 days. And last one is applied research. Applied research, like it's applied and action research, we think it's the same, but it's different, because applied you can use your research for your development of some theories, and you can use it for your more on your applied. For example, now we are focusing on applied psychology. That means you're not using for just for academic purpose, but it's also for your development of some policies and all that. So action is more on you're using it for practical. You like, for example, teachers in the classroom, he or she can take the respondent and try to do like quasi experimental design, whereby it's more on action because it's taking from the sample. But apply, it's more on you apply whatever concepts that you want to do it, and maybe you can try for implication of your concepts and theory. I think, Doctor, my time given, is it enough, or I can proceed, Doctor? I have
2 minutes or 3 minutes, sir.
Okay, okay.
Because
So,
other resource person is waiting.
okay. Sorry, doctor. So,
No problem. No, sir.
now,
We are late.
yeah, very important. So, as a students or as a researcher, first of all, you need to decide. You need to decide. You need to plan. You need to plan, because a lot of students are failed to do that planning, because they started with whatever they want, they like, they interested. But remember, research, you need to think about what is your outcome of your research, whether it contribute to something in your theoretical development. So if it's theoretical development, what are the method that you use, whether it's quantitative or qualitative type of research. Maybe you want to do about exploratory or grounded theory, maybe exploratory research with grounded theory, phenomenological, because it's on more qualitative. In quantitative, you can do like questionnaire, interviews and all that. Maybe you will learn all that later in your 5 days research. As a researcher, I always think the contributions must go back to our society. Who is my society? My people that I'm living with. So whenever I do research, I think about research, I think about research method, and I think about the implication of my research. With that, thank you so much for the time. Thank you so much for your listening, and also for your answers which you have given to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
so much, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Vanakkam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your words of wisdom about research and research methodology. Thank you so much, sir. I now call upon K. Sheila, Research Scholar, Faculty of Education, Dr. MGR Educational and Research Institute, to introduce the speaker of today's session.
A warm noon wishes to one and all present here. It's a great privilege to introduce the resource person of this session, Dr. Ravi Chandran sir, Director of Research and HOD, Computer Science Department, Silicon City College, Bangalore. Dr. Ravi Chandran sir is a pedagogical expert and has several years of teaching with a wide spectrum of students. He has his PhD in pedagogical leadership from UPSI, Malaysia. Due to his passion in the field of online teaching and learning, he continued his studies to do his second PhD from Open University, Malaysia, in the field of information technology. As an author, research consultant, and instructional designer, he has several papers presented in international conferences and had also given keynote address in an international conference. He has moderated several postgraduate research theses and had been an external examiner moderating PhD students. He is also a founder and designer for K-Learn Learning Management System. His main area of interest is research and smart learning tools and techniques for 21st century digital learners. On behalf of the Faculty of Education, Dr.MGR Educational Research Institute, we extend a warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you, Sheila. Welcome, sir. Please accept our virtual bouquet, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome, sir.
Sir, now we can please take up the session, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
How are you, sir?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Thank you. Is my screen visible there?
Yes, sir, it's visible, sir.
Yes, sir, it's visible, sir.
So good afternoon and welcome for today's session. And on behalf of Silicon City College, Bangalore, I thank Dr.MGR Educational Research Institute for giving me this opportunity to present my session today. I also thank my beloved friend, and she is more than a friend, a sister to me, Dr. K. Geeta, principal of Dr. MGR Educational Institute in the Faculty of Education. So today my focus will be significance of questionnaire and its framework. I'm Dr. Ravichandran, once again, and I would start off with my session to you all today with some of the concepts which you would have never heard about it in the earlier part of your life or maybe in your research. So I am going to show you some of the interesting facts about questionnaires and its framework. So this is the outline for today's session I'll be talking about. So I don't want to spend more time on this, but later I'll share the PPT with you guys. So before moving on, I just a brief path where I had come from and where I am today. Just a path. 1985, I started off as a primary school teacher, then went on to a higher secondary school teacher, college lecturer, then Dean of Malaysian University in 2017, after working for almost 14 years in one of the famous colleges in Malaysia, College Yayasan UEM in Lembah Beringin. And then I moved back to India to serve my country and my students. I am here in Bangalore as a research director. I still own a position in Pioneer University, Malaysia as adjunct lecturer, and I'm also curriculum developer and also consultant for the famous online university, University of the People, US. So moving on, these are my contributions towards education. I'm the first Indian to get a double doctorate degree from Malaysia. I've written several books, and book written for Faculty of Education is one of my closest one for OEM, and I have published more than 100 research articles, and I've been external examiner, curriculum developer, and I've also published chapters in impact publications like Taylor and Francis and Scopus. I've supervised research, as already mentioned, for more than 250 M.Ed research scholars and also PhD students, given keynote speeches at Anna University, EduTech Singapore World Conference, and normally University, etc. As already mentioned, I'm also a developer of K-Learn learning management system. So today, my dear friends, what you're going to witness is a different concept altogether in the building of questionnaire and its framework. Actually, I finished my two-day conference in my college, where many eminent speakers and also research scholars have presented the papers. But what I felt at the end of the day was the questionnaire part, the research methodology part were not that focused. And in my own experience, wherever I have worked, they think that questionnaire is something which you design in maybe 30 minutes or 20 minutes and give it to the audience for getting their responses. But that is not indeed what a questionnaire is all about. A questionnaire takes the perception of the audience, and it is very, very important that your questioning has to be aligned and mapped to the respective concepts and constructs involved in the research. So to begin with, I begin with a very good activity. I know that there are quite a number of participants today. There might be research scholars, there might be doctors, there might be professors. So every one of them out there, I just wanted to make sure that you go to this particular link where I have given you, and I'm going to just capture your views on what exactly is the path. Like, for example, if you wanted to start off with your questionnaire, there are more than just preparing a questionnaire. you have to follow lots of other things in your research. So what do you need to have in your mind and in your hand before you decide to go for a questionnaire is what I'm trying to capture from you guys. This is called Govind V diagram. This has been completely designed by someone else, but it has been given in the form of a portrait by me for my research scholars. So I would like to share this one with you so that you know where you are going in your research. I'll also show it in my screen, and for those who are not with proper internet connections, I'll share this one in my screen as well. I'll have to come out of my presentation and then go to browser. Can you see my browser?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sure. So those who are out there, you can always use this link so that you are there and following my instruction clearly. So okay, so this is what you see here. Can you see the screen, please? Hello, madam.
Yes, sir. Able to see, sir.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Good.
it's visible.
Okay, this is Govind V diagram, where if you see here at the top, you have the title. Suppose you're doing a research, for example. You have to have a title, the focus question, for example, express an accurate question. What is the problem you wanted to solve? So focus question should be there. Then the planning and evaluation starts. So on the left side, if you see the planning stages begin, like stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, stage 5. And once you come to the stage 6, where it is an implementation process, then move forward with stage 7, 8, 9, 10. This is how the Govind V diagram looks like. So if you can spend some time in entering these, it'll be good for where exactly you are traversing or journeying in your research easily. So this one, you can do it either now or maybe later also, no worries. Once you do it, once you fill in your tutor name as my email address or your supervisor's email address, it'll automatically send a copy of this data to your supervisor. And if you can use computerravi@gmail.com, computerravi@gmail.com, perhaps it will send a message or the entire Govind V diagram output to my email, so that I can also respond to whatever you have entered. So that's the reason why I've given at the start as an activity for you. And I think it will take a little bit of time because we have got a wide spectrum of audience here who are from different domains, and therefore it will take some time, which I don't want. So later when you're free, I would request you to, all your questions will be answered later, don't worry. And you can always try this one and send Govind V diagram inputs to my email address. Again, I repeat, my email address is computerravi@gmail.com, computerravi@gmail.com. Okay, now I move on to my slides. So with a small activity on the beginning, we move on to the next one, understanding research. So what searching does research, searching it again and again means research. What exactly research? Because you see, I have divided my presentation into three segments. One is what is the requirement you will have to have before actually coming to a stage where you wanted to prepare your question. Then after preparing your question, what happens? So input, process, and output are the three stages here. So what is the input, first of all, you should have before you start trying to design your questionnaire is very, very important. So research is a systematic collection, analysis, and interpretation of data to answer certain questions or solve a problem. So this, we all know that. So it's a systematic collection, analysis, and interpretation of data to answer certain questions or solve a problem. So you have to have a systematic methodology or a system when you start working with your research. It is not just going and start designing a questionnaire, circulating with a set of audience and reporting your data. That isn't actually a proper research. So what is important is you should know how these research questions are to be designed even before you come to that particular stage. That's the main intention of today's focus. So as the keynote speaker today did mention about research methodology's importance, the term systematic review is used to refer to a specific methodology of research developed in order to gather and evaluate the available evidence pertaining to a focused topic. So you should have proper evidence of what exactly you're doing in your research before you gather information to your research and start working on your questionnaire. There are students who I have met, they don't know the difference between what exactly is a survey research or experimental research. They don't know what exactly is not parametric test and non-parametric test. For example, in my yesterday's conference, there was one paper presented by one of the students who was using a chi-square test in the sampling, and he was not able to even identify whether it was a parametric test or a non-parametric test, and why it is used in this statistical test. All these things were there in the conference papers. So this clearly shows that they are not prepared for that particular research, and they are due to some pressure or institutional pressure, they are trying to publish the paper or present the papers. So this shouldn't happen, because research is a very, very serious matter. It leaves a footpath. For example, if you are going to publish an article, what happens is, even after several years, this paper may be referenced in some of other researchers' theses or articles. So if you are going to record a wrong information, what happens eventually? It will end up giving wrong information altogether. So even today, you can see that famous researchers like Cobb, 1964, Bandura, Vygotsky, Maslow, Salman, and everybody, research are being quoted even today, even though they have found that theories in 1964 or even before. So what is important is the facts, what they record. The facts, whatever they have recorded, has been taken by several million people out there in the research field, referencing their research work. So if you are going to give a false report, if you are going to design a questionnaire wrongly, it is all completely a wrong information what you are going to take it to the audience. So therefore, eventually, this will lead into a wrong, fabricated, or prevaricated results and findings. So this should not happen. So that is the reason why we have today this particular session. So now you know that research thesis consists of introduction session, literature review, research methodology, data analysis, interpretation, discussions, and findings. So everything in a research matters much. So if your questionnaire is there in the research methodology section, or maybe in the appendix you wanted to show your questionnaire, everything, whatever you discuss throughout your thesis has a relevance, because data analysis is based on your questionnaire. So if you are having a questionnaire wrongly prepared, then there is no matter whatsoever you have done your thesis or research, it counts to a impactful thing for the society and for the people who wanted to reference your article. So whatever you are going to present needs to be sensible and it has to be facts. And if it has to be facts, it has to be mapped properly. So if you see here, we have in chapter 2 literature review. So the literature review, if you see here today, the most biggest headache for the supervisor, if you see, is correcting the students' literature review. This is because they think that literature review is nothing but cutting and pasting of their whatever reading or journals or papers they have read. But isn't so. It has to go with a proper argument. It has to find out the research gap. It has to give the audience who are reading or the readers who are reading that particular chapter number 2 a clear view of the direction where the research is leading to. What is the possible research questions arriving from the literature review? It is not just a cut and paste. But today I have seen from my corrections, most of the students are trying to just place a cut and paste in their chapter 2 of the literature review part. This is not the fact, because if the literature review is not properly mapped and it is not properly in systematic order, you cannot arrive at the plausible research aim, research objectives, and the research questions. So it is all connected one to one. So that is one thing which I would like to emphasize. That's the reason why I have used this particular slide. So now to move forward, I said I'm going to just give you a brief thing, what you require before preparing a questionnaire. And then I'll slowly come to that area, the core of today's research presentation, that is building a questionnaire and how the questionnaire is all about and things to be taken care of. So what data to collect, how to collect, from whom the data will be collected, from whom the data will be collected is very, very important, because you have to know your sampling, you have to know from which population your sampling is taken and whether it is able to generalize the population. That's very, very important. The sampling frame is important, for example, in designing your sample size, everything. So what exactly sample frame, everything will come to in for discussion in a couple of minutes. So how to analyze the data and tools and techniques used in data analysis, everything matters much in your research methodology and also in your research. So you will see here, this is how the system goes one by one. Now, if you see, my dear friends, there are two important things which you should know. And this is very clear in my presentation here today, that research can be divided broadly into survey research and experiment research. Survey research is a qualitative and qualitative method with two important characteristics. First, the variable of interest are measured using self-reports. Experiment research is a research conducted with scientific approach, two sets of variables. This is where you have the post-test and pre-test coming into picture. And this is survey research is where mostly we think about preparing a questionnaire, distributing to a particular set of people who are connected to that particular research, and we gather the respondents' input. So this is survey research and also the experimental research. But if you see here in my activity 2, what research type will you choose to conduct a research to find what is the most opted item purchased by any customer in a shopping mall? Suppose you wanted to find what is the most opted item purchased by any customer in a shopping mall. What exactly will you use? Will you use an experimental design or will you use a survey? Will you have a post-test or a pre-test, or will you have a questionnaire given to them and then collecting those perception by the customers. What exactly is your thought? Can you just type in your chat box, please? So I have just shown you there can be two types. One is survey research, one is experimental research. So I'm asking you a simple question. If there is a requirement from somebody that you are supposed to find what is the most opted item purchased by any customer in a shopping mall, what exactly you will do? Whether you'll go for a survey questionnaire or you'll go for an experimental design, what exactly is your thought? I would like to capture. You can type in the chat box. I'll give you just 1 minute. Okay, good. So nice to know that most of them are aware that it should go for survey type of research. So if you see here in the experimental research design, you have the following things as also pointed by our keynote speaker today, the Gaussian experimental design he was talking about. So if you see here, there are lots of things you have to know before you move on to the experimental research design. You have the pre-experimental, true experimental, quasi-experimental, and statistical. And you should also know in which area what is placed. I would also say this particular incident which took place yesterday, where one of the participants or one of the presenters in the conference did do this mistake. He was mentioning that he has done in his research size square test, but I asked him a question whether it was a parametric test or a non-parametric test, from where he did your analysis, all these things. He was not aware of what I was talking about. So if you see here, it all depends on, you can't say that I have done true experimental design in a survey design type of research. So you should know for which which research type we are using what. Okay, so that's very, very important in research, and that can be easily spotted out by your supervisor or external examiner who is moderating your thesis. So you have to be very, very careful. Like somebody might mention that I am going to use purposeful sampling. Some would say I would use convenient sampling. So you should know when to use purposeful sampling, when to use convenient sampling. Okay, so there are certain research findings saying that convenient sampling can be used only for qualitative and quantitative, whereas purposeful sampling is purely meant for qualitative and not for quantitative. All these things are a lot of debate going on in the web and also in journals. So you have to properly code a literature to support that I'm using the purposeful sampling for this particular research because of this particular literature. All these things can highlight and make quality to your thesis. So moving further, understanding the problems in population sampling. So you see here, many of today's research scholars still get confused with what is sample, what is population. So you have to know that whenever you take a sample, it is a representation of the entire population. Suppose I say I'm going to do a research in Karnataka, and suppose I say Bangalore is my focus. So Bangalore becomes my sample and Karnataka becomes my population. And when I take the sample, it should surely make a representation of the population. And if you see here, sampling methods also, you have different types. You can't say I'm using a clustered sampling and mention in your thesis it is a non-probabilistic sampling technique used. So these are the things which will really expose yourself to the examiners that you have not actually taken the research very seriously. So you have to know which category they belong to before actually spotting out your sampling. Okay, so whether it's a probability sampling techniques using or a non-probability sampling techniques you are adopting to your research. So if you see here, before actually designing your sample, what exactly is important is your designing sample frame, and then probably you should go to a stage where you decide your sample. So this is where you have to know who is your sample and how the questionnaire is going to be distributed to get the appropriate responses from your audience. Okay, here again, there's the activity for you. You'll have to answer this one. And slowly I converge towards the questionnaire. I know that I'm taking a time for this one. This is very important before we jump into questionnaire, because without these basic ideas and concepts, if I go to the questionnaire, I think I'll not be doing justice to my presentation. And therefore, this is the reason why I've placed certain questions, so that people out, the participants out there are interact with my slides. You see here, we got 20 male mice and 20 female mice, half to be treated and other half to be left untreated. Can only work with 4 mice per day. How to design this individual treatment group days. Okay. So how are you going to do it? Again, the question comes to you, whether it's going to be a survey or it's going to be an experimental. I think most of you will agree that it is going to be experimental. So if this is going to be posted to you, you can see there are certain techniques you have to understand. Sometimes what happens when you do the sampling, you take 1 week all C. C means the control group, and T means treating whatever treatment we are giving. So if you see 1 week, the whole treatment is given, 1 week, the whole group is given under control or kept under control. So, and in one particular week, all the female is taken, another week, all the male is taken. So this is a sort of research, but it is not a sound sampling technique. So it is a bad evidence of a sampling technique. And if you are going to justify your research based on such poor sampling techniques used in your research, I think there won't be much interest for any of other researchers to take up your findings and move forward with indexing them, mentioning them in their thesis as reference. So whatever best you can give in the thesis matters much. And this all comes right from your sampling text, right from the choosing of research methodology, what you're doing, everything matters much. So this is a randomized design, which I'm showing here. You can see here, T, C, C, T, all these things is changed here in week 1 against week 2. So this is also one of the sampling methods in experimental design. And you also have this stratified design also, wherein you can see that in week 1, we have one particular type, and week 2 has a different type. So my intention is not to go into the deep into the sampling techniques today, because it's out of scope. But my idea and my path should be very clear to you, where I'm trying to take you all. Before the questionnaire, because if you see here today, if you are a supervisor, in fact, you would come across many of your students doing the research question in just like that and bringing it to you and just showing you. They go for Google, they go and Googling, or they just go and get some questionnaire, just change it accordingly, and they bring it to you and they say that, so this is the questionnaire which I'm going to adopt. That it is not true. You are supposed to follow certain ethics when designing the questionnaire, and those ethics is what I am projecting it today for today's discussion in these slides. So surveys, last time, whatever in the previous slide we saw was about experimental design, and this is pertaining to the survey research design. You can see here we have cross-sectional survey and longitudinal survey data collected at one point of time. You can see here, suppose you are distributing questionnaire and you are collecting all the data at one shot, then we call it as a cross-sectional survey. But what happens longitudinal survey? For example, if you wanted to do a research comparing the semester 1 against semester 2 students, then what happens? It has to be taken at different stage. For example, if I wanted to do a research in this year for 2 semesters, I have to wait for the results for semester 1 to be out, and also I have to wait for the results to be out for the second semester. So what happens? It is a longitudinal survey wherein it takes time for the entire cohort to get completed and to get the data from the respondent, from the students. So what happens? It is a longitudinal survey. So this matters much because the attitude of students in the semester 1 may differ from attitude of the students in the semester 2. So all this has an impact on your designing of questionnaire and deciding on your construct of the questionnaire. When I say construct of the questionnaire is the variables that is involved in your question. Okay, so all these things matters much. So you have to be very, very careful in adopting a questionnaire before circulating it with your respondents. So the survey research issues are: what is your research question? What is your target population? What do you know about this population? Do you have sample frame? What shape is it in? Do you have an existing questionnaire adopted? Are you going to adopt a questionnaire from someone else, previous researchers, or do you want to devise one for your own? So what are the theories and concepts you're going to adopt? What is your theoretical framework as such? What is the direction of your independent variable towards the dependent variable? All these things matters much while deciding your questionnaire. When do you need your data? So how long you are going to do the data collections? Everything matters much. And of course, this last one is only for those people who actually go for funding type of research. So this is what you have to know prior to coming to the stage where you are going to design your question. So this also you can see here for the experimental research design. What is the group? You have the pre-test and post-test, true experimental research design. So you have various other designs like random, and also this Solomon 4 group design. All these things are different types of design and experimental design, which I don't want to go into depth. I'll take you to a different path if I'm going to involve more time into this particular segment of experimental design. So we move on to the next activity. You can see here I have discussed on some of the concept behind experimental design and also a survey design, and I have also shared with you some of the designs techniques so far. But I have a question to you today now. Can a qualitative study have quantitative data, or a quantitative data have a qualitative input also? What is your perception? What is your idea? Suppose you're designing a questionnaire. Can your questionnaire have a qualitative inputs also gathered from the respondents, or other way around? So what is your input? Can you type in the chat box, please? What is your idea? So I can see Meenakshi says, yes, we can have a qualitative in a quantitative type of research. I can see yes by Pungodai. I just give about 30 seconds. I can gather some more so that I'll know where exactly we are going. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was amazing. Depends on the procedure. Wow. Okay, good. So everybody were saying yes, 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 but there, I could see that there was one depends on the procedure. So good. So majority of them were gone for yes. So now you see here, this is one example I would share with you. You see here in this particular video, I'm showing you a classroom observation. A classroom observation where both the teachers are teaching identical sessions at the start of the class, and this has been captured through a WorkPro software. It's a WorkPro software mostly used to find out the timeline, that is to examine how effectively a time slice, for example. Like for example, how each and every single bit of a time slice can be analyzed using this particular software. And it is majority users are from the research, engineering domain. So I have taken it for my classroom observation in Malaysian schools. So wherein I can see that the teachers are involved in observation. So this observation is what? It is a qualitative. But you see here, the teacher are doing the class. And if you see at the down, I have given instruction what I'm trying to capture. All these things are given as an input in the software itself. So this is actually a qualitative, but you see here, the report generates a quantitative output. So you can't decide that only qualitative means all text, and only qualitative means only text, and only quantitative means only numbers. So this attitude should first of all go. It all depends upon how you take up your research and how you wanted to pitch it in your research. That matters much. So if you see here, this is where I'm exactly moving to today's topic, our questionnaire understanding. So if you see here, research objectives are mapped to research questions. You see here, how does advertising affects a company share? So there will be a research objectives already defined elsewhere with a research aim also. So all these things should be mapped properly. So if you have one research question which is not at all connected to a research objective, then it's no point in doing that particular research because it's not mapped. For example, if you see here, does education increase your job prospects? What will be a possible research objectives? Can anybody tell me, like, or maybe somebody can type it in the research chat box. In the chat box, can anybody type in the chat box, please? So if you see here, you have a connection between the research objective and the research question. But if you see the last one, does education increase your job prospects? So what will be a possible, just think, what will be a possible research objective? Could be. Let me check. To analyze the influence of education on job prospects. Excellent, good. Anybody else, please? There are 100 people out there. I'll just repeat once again. Research question, does education influence your job prospect is the research question. I'm just asking you what will be a possible research objective. Exactly. This one, Ketan, superb. Analyze influence of education and employment. Ketan one was good. Impact. Good. So I can see finding, okay, good. Relation between education and employment. Okay, good. So now you can see that there is a connection between research objective to research question. And where do this research question arrive from? These research questions should arrive from your proper arguments taken from your literature review. So literature review holds those matters. Literature review holds that research objectives. Literature review holds that research aim, everything in a properly, systematically layered manner. So that everybody should know. So research question mapped to research objectives is what I would like to emphasize in this particular slide. So now you see here, you often see a questionnaire with what? Strongly agree, agree, neutral, disagree, strongly agree. And you also have questionnaire items. What is the difference between question, research question and question items? Research question is the research question for the research. Research question items are the questions asked in the questionnaire. So question items means it refers to each questions that are placed in your questionnaire. Now, if you see here, I have got research question number 1. How does the advertising affect the company's share price? So for that research question, I am trying to capture the input from the audience or from the respondents through these question items. Do you watch our company advertisement? Have you purchased our company share after watching our advertisement? Do you think our company advertisement is worth watching? So all these things are connected to the research question number 1. And here I have used a Likert scale, strongly agree to strongly disagree. All these things is very clear. So this is how you have to make sure before you design your questionnaire to map it appropriately with the research question and the research question items. The next issue related to the questionnaire designing is one important thing is validity and reliability. I have seen many students, even before they conduct the research, they are not so sure whether the questionnaire, whatever they decide to circulate, is correct or not. This is because they have not done proper pilot testing, nor they have actually gone to an extent of doing a validity test or reliability test. The most important in any questionnaire is the validity and reliability. A good questionnaire are different to construct. A bad questionnaire are difficult to analyze. This point you have to clearly keep in mind, my dear friends. A questionnaire well constructed, well designed, with proper constructs. That means construct is nothing but variables which you are going to measure, will definitely yield proper analysis. Whereas if you are going to design a questionnaire with no justification, no mapping, then probably it will yield a wrong fabricated information that would not be of any interest to the audience. That's what I mean here. So reliability test and validity test is very important, my dear friends. I'll be discussing more about it shortly. So validity is the extent to which a questionnaire measures what is supposed to measure. Whereas reliability, on the other hand, how consistent or stable is the question. So suppose you are going to use the same question elsewhere, whether it will generate the same output is what is the reliability, whereas the validity is actually what it is supposed to capture, will it capture. That is what is validity. So there are two different things to be understood clearly by the researchers before they pitch their questionnaires: validity and reliability. Without reliability and validity, one cannot test hypothesis. Without conducting hypothesis, one cannot support theories. Without supporting theories, one cannot conduct why the event occurred. So everything is connected. Everything is connected. Don't just do justification by saying or claiming that I have completed my chapter number 1, I have completed my chapter number 2 and chapter number 3. Everything is interrelated. It is like a, constructing a garland. You are collecting small flowers. Then using thread to tie it up and make a beautiful garland and giving it to the society. So if you are going to not align your research in this order, whatever I have been describing all this time, eventually this will not be answered. Without reliability and validity, one cannot test hypothesis. So yesterday, one of the paper was also presented without reliability and validity test, but they talk about hypothesis, whatever hypothesis they are using in the presentation they have been talking, but without doing the reliability test. So that is not going to be a systematic research. And without conducting hypothesis, one cannot support the theories, because every hypothesis has a theory. So that is what you are supposed to include in your literature review. So everything is a mixture, my dear friends. It is like proper weaving of the entire system. Okay, so if you don't link one to another, eventually what happens, you will end up doing a wrong research. It will not give what it is supposed to yield. Okay, and your supervisor will definitely not be happy, because he knows that whatever you have done is a fabricated research and not a research what he is looking for. So without supporting theories, one cannot conduce, or why the event has occurred. So you can't justify why the event has occurred without supporting the theories. So if you see what is reliable, what is valid, neither reliable, not valid, both reliable and valid, everything has to be taken care of. So here I have got an activity also for you guys. You see here which device can measure the body temperature here. You're not kids here to ask this question. So I move forward. You can see there are thermometers to measure the temperature. So if you see here, you have one digital and one is non-digital. And if you see here, digital has 37.2, 37.1, 37.2 mostly recorded. Whereas manually, you can see here, there is a lot of deviation. And also there is outlier. That means there is extreme cases, like there is temperature which has 28.2 and also temperature recorded as 43.3. So it is inconsistent here. So obviously I'll be using a digital thermometer than this one. So those type of things really, really matters much while taking your data. So which is reliable and which is not reliable, which is valid and which is not valid, everything matters much before deciding to go for your questionnaire distribution. So now, how to analyze the validity of an instrument. So this is where I am talking about two important things. One is phase validity and content validity. The questionnaire are sent to subject matter experts or sent for suggestion to modification. So before you circulate your questionnaire, what is important or what is the forgotten bit is, it is not tested, it is not sampled with appropriate people in that particular domain, so that it is having zero errors and zero spelling mistakes. All these things has to be done before you circulate to the final respondents from where you gather your data. So this is a forgotten bit by most of the researchers. The pilot testing is very, very important, my dear friends. Phase validity and content validity. Okay, so content validity, it refers to the extent to which measures represent all facts of a given construct. Okay, so I'll come back to this content validity in a more detailed manner. So it's the degree to which an instrument has an appropriate sample of items for construct being measured. Okay, so that is content validity. So this has got certain formulas to be remembered by the researchers. You can see here how to analyze the validity of an instrument. I have placed it very clearly here. The question 1, question 2. So if you go and give it to your subject matter expert to find out any errors in your questionnaire, then this is the way you are supposed to give them. Okay, you just don't have to give them the question and ask them to find fault. You have to give in a proper systematic manner whether your questionnaire has any errors, all these things, and how you can modify your questionnaire. Everything has to be done clearly before circulating it to the final set of audience. So this is one example which I sharing with you for validity of an instrument. So before coming here, I would also share how I ask my students to do this. Wait a minute. So I would like to share this with you guys. This is very, very important. Okay. You can see here. I'll come to all your questions patiently. Don't worry, no worries. I'm not in a urgency to go anywhere. I'll answer everything today. Don't worry. Whatever presentation I have had and slides I have had, I'll share it with you. So look here. I think it's visible to the audience there. Can anybody confirm that you're able to see the screen? Can anyone say?
Yes, sir, I can see the.
Okay, good, very good. So now you see here on my left, you have what? The questionnaire. On my right, I have the remark section for the subject matter expert to make the comments. So if you see here, see the quality of the questionnaire. You have the questionnaire designed with the 7 Likert scale, and you see here, I have given comments. So when you give this to the subject matter expert, ask him for his or her expert comments, what happens? They know that you are a serious researcher. But today, are the research scholars doing this? Or the researchers doing this? They just go bluntly give a question and ask them, so please find whether there is any spelling mistakes or whether the questions are correct or not. Even without knowing the theoretical framework, the conceptual framework of your research, and what you are going to do in your research, how are they going to comment on your questionnaire? So your questionnaire should have everything what it is intended to capture. What is the title, what it is going to do, the introduction, and what are the various constructs you're going to capture. For example, you see here, facilitated learning, engaged learning, online assessment, all these things are constructs. So the reader, that means the subject matter expert, would clearly understand, okay, these are the variables that are to be measured in this particular question against each of these question items. So if you're asking about online assessment here, and if you're talking about face-to-face, eventually that is not going to capture any of your respondents' input properly. It will be a biased questionnaire. It will not measure what is intended to measure. So when you give the questionnaire a clear constructs, what happens is eventually the subject matter experts will know that this has to be mapped to this. Remember, already I mentioned that objectives are mapped to research questions, and here questionnaire items are mapped to the respective constructs, and all these things are mapped to the research questions again. So this has to be taken care of very seriously by you, my dear friends, and make sure this is a habit for all your research. Any research, make sure that you have this type of research. I can share this template to you. Perhaps you can put your questionnaire here and have this same type of template circulated to your subject matter expert. Okay, this is what I would like to share with you. Another thing is, what I wanted to share with you is, wait a minute. Okay, this one I think I'll come later. This one I would like to share with you guys. Okay, good. So I hope this is visible there, and you can see here. This is called a literature matrix. And you see here, this is where you can see how the student has, this is Doctor of Business Administration. So DBA student actually. So you can see here, what are the journals and papers read by him? What are the details, author name, title, year of publication, whether it's publication journal or not, objectives, research questions, hypothesis used in the journal, methodology, instrument use, sample, design, analysis technique, results, and direction of further research. All these things this particular student has taken from how many papers? Let us see. 17, 20, 21, 22, and he stops here for one category. The second category is organizational related factors and its influence on project performance. This is the second data which he had collected, and that goes to another. And 20, 28. Okay, so if you see here, he had gone to several research articles, placing it in proper manner, and now see he is identifying current research. From all these things, this is what. So that is how it is going to be narrowed down. So that is how the PhD research should go down. So this is literature review. And this one, when you place it in your chapter number 2, it has got a lot of impact. Okay, so the supervisor is very happy that you are not getting a PhD just for heck of it, but you are putting on a lot of hard work into reading of these articles, gathering information and collecting. You can't just populate this table without reading. Can you do it without reading? So it has to be done with meticulous reading. Only then you can know whether instruments are there, whether sampling is there, design is there, analysis, technology used, all these things without reading cannot be captured. So first of all, there should be a trust between the student and the supervisor, and the supervisor towards the student. So when this particular student has given to me, I would go and read and pass my comments. It will take hours together for me to pass my comments to the students, what he should have done, whether he could improvise more or it is sufficient for the research to go forward. Everything will be recorded in a feedback form and given to him. So that shows the trust between both the parties. But what happens today, in the busy time of the supervisors, they try to ignore this one. And eventually what happens, the student feels that his hard work or her hard work is not appreciated. Most of the time this has been happening. I have seen a lot of complaint from the student side that, sir, my supervisor have not gone through my questionnaire, sir. Not so happy with the questionnaire. Could you please try to see, sir, all these things. I've been getting a hell a lot of messages and emails. So that itself is a proper evidence that the trust is not in a good status. So this is what I would like to share here. I'm showing all these things because your questionnaire is all what? Connected to every segment of whatever I have discussed so far. Okay, my friends. So now I move on to my presentation. And this is where I move on to the analysis and validity of the instrument using content validity instead. If you see here, the moment I show you, you panic. There is no need to panic. It is just the average. That's all. If you know how to find the average, you can definitely do this particular content validity index. And when you show this type of tables in your research methodology, the reader will be happy, of course. They know that you have gone into the extent of finding what is content validity, and you wanted to go for reliability of your instruments by finding the Cronbach alpha, all these things. then they are very much impressed about the quality of your research and also the questionnaire, whatever has been distributed. So if you see here, the CVI is higher than 79%, the item will be appropriate. If it is between 70 to 79, it needs revision. If it is less than 70%, it has to be eliminated. So if you see here, at the top, you have expert 1, expert 2, expert 3, expert 4, expert 5, expert 6. That means the questionnaire has been distributed to 6 experts. And this is the report what the student have got, the number of agreements against the number of non-agreements. And if you see only this particular portion of what has been commonly agreed is your CVI index. Okay. So you can see here number of agreement is 5 and 6. And you can see here item CVI is also listed here. And if it is more than 79%, it is good to go for acceptance. That means the questionnaire, that means the instrument or whatever you wanted to distribute to the respondents for collecting responses is fair enough. And now you also have to know what is something called as CAPA statistics. Is index of inter-rater agreement that adjusts for chance of agreement. Say for example, in this case, what happens is you are giving to 6 experts to find whether the quality of your questionnaire is proper or not. So for which you should also do this CAPA assessment to know whether it is excellent or good or bad. So that is also one of the statistical tests which you will be doing during the validity of the instrument. And this is what you have for the reliability of the instrument. For the reliability, this one is validity of the instrument, and this is for the reliability of the instrument. So if you see here, the Cron-Bach alpha should be more than 0.9 for the instrument to declare as excellent. Suppose you have 0.6, it is a poor instrument and it is most likely to get you a biased or not relevant output by distribution of those questionnaires. So if you are going to have something like 0.7, it is still in a dilemma. That means the quality is still questionable. So if you are going to have 7.5 or maybe 7 and above, then it is acceptable. And as you see here, good, excellent, it goes like that. But I would suggest, in my experience, I have always done this Cron-Bach alpha to be at more than 8.5 and above. Okay. So of course there are other tests, which needs a longer, profound, one full day you can teach about all these things. But that is a workshop. In a webinar type of thing, we have to touch only those areas where it is important for the audience to look upon. So if it is going to be a workshop, I would have gone for pattern analysis, all these things. But at this particular point of time, what is important for you is to know the validity of the instrument and also the reliability of the instrument. That is what I would like to share with you. And for this, if you see here, I got Excel sheet, which I would like to share, because most of the students, they think that we need a proper SPSS or other statistical tools to evaluate all these things. Now Excel has got everything. If you have in fact Excel 365, I think you can do most of your statistical analysis there. And I would share this particular screen now for content validity first, and then go for Cron-Bach alpha. If you see here, this is an Excel sheet, my dear friends, and if you see here, total agreement 5, 4, 3, 6, 1, all these things is agreement by the experts on item 1. Item 1, 5 agreed is okay. Out of 6, 5 agreed. Item 2, in the questionnaire, 5 agreed, 6. But whereas in item 4, 3 experts agreed and others did not agree. So now you see here CVI, content validity is here, and the COPA is here. And if you see here, this one is quite dangerous. 3 agreed, not agreed, so it gives you 0.2. And if you see 6 out of 6, that means 6 people agreed that item 5 is appropriate. So you get, when see 1 is displayed, that means it's perfect. So this is called the validity of the instrument. Finding the validity of the instrument. This is important for the researchers to include in their thesis. And the next one is the Cronbach alpha. You don't have to go and sit on SPSS to do all these things. You can just do it simply in your Excel. I can see here, you have all your questionnaires, items, question 1, question 2, all these things entered, with 1 saying yes and 0 saying no. And you can see here the Cronbach alpha level is displayed here, and it is 0.7. So I said earlier that if it is more than 8.5 or more than 8, it is good enough to be acceptable for the research, and it can be ready for distribution. And if it is 7 or 6 or something like that, it is still questionable, and you have to improvise your questionnaire by either by eliminating few question items or by including some items. So that's how you go about doing your reliability test for your questionnaire. So now if you are going for the SPSS, this is where you'll see that in the analysis tool, you'll see scale reliability analysis. Then you'll have to select all your question items like this. And when you click OK, you'll generate, it will automatically generate the reliability statistics, and you'll find out the Cronbach alpha here as shown in this particular slide. So that will be as simple as that. And these are the steps involved in the SPSS tool as far as your reliability test is concerned. So now we move on to the next stage, wherein you can see here how to go about deciding the statistical test. Okay, so once you gather data, what test you are going to use. Remember, I did shared with you one example which took place in the yesterday's conference. So the student had used chi-square test, but he was mentioning it as a parametric test. So that is completely out. So you should know very clearly where is parametric test, what all the test is under parametric and non-parametric. And even before that, you have to do the test for normalization, wherein normality test should be done to find out whether it is parametric test to be opted or non-parametric test to be opted. But this is completely on statistical aspect, which is not today's focus. Our focus is purely on the questionnaire framework. So now you see here, all these things are going. So now, how does the research work? And where exactly is your questionnaires? You can see here, if your research is going to go like this, we have done all this pilot testing, everything is done. So it has to be circulated. If it is not appropriate, again, go review, literature review, change your questionnaires, everything. Okay, all these things multiple times you do your reviews, then population sample. Okay, all these things goes like this, and tools for doing your analysis. Then comes your pilot test study, work plan, collection of data, data management, interpretation, reporting. All these things has to have a systematic mapping and a plan. Okay, so this has been taken from this particular source. You can always go and Google it. After I share this PPT with you guys, you can definitely try to see what are the other things that is discussed in this particular website. So this is the conclusion, what I have captured all this time with you. And so I think I have covered most of it in today's session. The main idea is you should know before actually designing your questionnaire, there are a lot more things to be framed and taken into picture for deciding the quality of your questionnaires and questionnaire items. It is not just simply designing a questionnaire based on your research topic. Everything has to be mapped, right from your research topic, literature review, research objectives, research aims, research questions has to be formed. And from the research question, every single construct has to be decided. And through the construct, every single research question items has to be decided. And that's how the entire mapping is made. And before I conclude my session, for all the participants who have been today, and for all the doctors and professors there out there, this might be a sort of recap whatever I have discussed today in my slides. But for the beginners, certainly it would have been an eye-opener that they should not go and pitch their question before deciding on various factors such as what I have displayed today. So now you might ask me, what exactly is the question? And what exactly is the questionnaire framework? Whatever I have discussed today, the entire thing is the questionnaire framework. Okay, so there is something called as questionnaire framework as such. Whatever, if you follow everything today, whatever I have discussed, that becomes your questionnaire framework. Okay, right from the beginning, deciding of your sampling size, deciding your area, deciding your literature review gaps, deciding your research aims, deciding your research objectives, mapping it appropriately, deciding your questionnaire constructs, deciding your theoretical framework. Where does the IV stand? Where does the DV stand? The directions, and how many constructs are there in your research, and how are you going to measure those constructs? What are the research question items that will capture to answer and measure those constructs? All these things becomes part and parcel of your questionnaire framework as such. So if you see here, when I share this PPT, or when you are here, please take a photo of it. This is how every single question item has to be decided and mapped for accuracy from the respective subject experts. Okay. You see here, I have already explained about the content validity. I have also explained about kappa coefficient. I also explained about Cronbach alpha for reliability. See, reliability is also important. Validity is also important. Some people, if you go and read majority of the research papers, you talk about the reliability, but never talk about the validity. Validity is also a must. Reliability is also equally a must. Okay. Okay. And this I just wanted to share with you. Okay. So now this ends my session for today, and I'm ready for taking some of your questions in the chat box. You can also speak to me if the host allows you.
Participants, any questions you can ask?
Audience, please unmute and ask your doubts.
Participants, kindly raise your hands so that I can make you mic unmute.
Any questions in the chat box also, one of you read out and you can answer. It's a nice opportunity, dear scholars. You just ask whatever doubts you have.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, my. Who is
Am
it?
I audible, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please tell.
Sir, how to deal with the situation where population is floating? For example, if I take tourist, the population will be floating. So there is a high problem of deviations. So how to handle this situation, sir?
So you basically inform them, inform the period of data collection. You mentioned your
So
period
that
of
limitation is enough. That limitation is enough.
yeah, that's enough. You can say the data was collected from this particular segment and from this start of time until this period. That should be fine, fair enough. And you can mention your limitations also. Correct. You're right. So
Okay.
because you see when it is, that's a good point actually what you mentioned, because the tourist population on a particular month might actually be low, as well as particular month it might be very high.
Right.
So it is a floating populations there actually, but that doesn't matter in your research as long as you quote your data collections period.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You're from which area?
So economics and general management, sir.
Oh, excellent, good. Any other questions?
Hello, sir.
Yes, my dear. Yes.
Good afternoon. Good evening, sir. Sir, I want to know about reliability. When we get reliability in our questionnaire, then suppose that 6 dimensions are there, and each dimensions 5 and 10 items are there. Then when we do for a scale, then we have to check reliability according to dimensions or separate items.
Separate items.
Okay, sir. Because it's a time is going on, I'm preparing tool. That's why, sir, I'm facing a lot of problem.
Okay.
So
see, research quality goes perfect when you go to micro level.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you go deeper and deeper, what happens is now you have a better understanding of the research, and the reader also understand that how much of effort you are put into understanding the core of the data.
Yes, sir.
That's the reason today we have machine learning algorithms coming into play, and it has played a major role in research actually. And they are going to an extreme of classifications and also identifying which is the outlier, anomalous detection, which is because now if you gather data, you don't know which is extreme cases and which is non-extreme cases, unless you have a sort of scatter diagram at a low level or going to the higher level like anomalous detections, etc. So what happens is you have technologies coming now, and it is very nice that machine learning is being inserted into this particular domain of research, wherein many people have come forward to present their paper with this particular inclusion. Okay, so you are doing with which area, madam?
Sir, I am doing in technology and on teacher educators, techno-pedagogical competency.
Okay, so you might find it difficult to use machine learning, but you are into the educational department, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So what is your title, madam, if you're not inclusive?
I can tell. Technology self-efficacy of teacher educators in relation techno-pedagogical competency and attitude towards teaching.
Okay. So remember, when you talk about attitude, you have to have an attitude scale, a proper measurement. Okay. So you have a lot of theories, lot of papers are there for attitude alone.
Yeah.
Attitude scale. Good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The attitude scale is available, and techno-pedagogical competency also. But technology self-efficacy, is it?
No, you're talking about technology pedagogic
efficacy.
What is that?
Technology self-efficacy.
Okay. Technology self-efficacy, you mean?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You're bringing Bandura's concept here?
So Bandura concept I'm not going to use, sir.
Teacher self. Okay.
That is teacher self-efficacy Bandura concept.
Okay. Good.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, and please provide this today recording, sir. Please in the group.
Yeah, I think the host will provide you, but PPT and other things I will share it in the.
Yes, because it's a very useful.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, well done. Any other question? Can we understand standardized questionnaire as it is our study for others? Can we use standardized questionnaire as it is in our study for others from other study? The answer is big no. You are the researcher, you can adopt a model or a research questionnaire you can adopt, and you can say in your research thesis that this questionnaire has been adopted from blah blah blah. All these things you can do. And if you are going to modify it, you can still do this is an adopted version from blah 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 and modify it. Okay, all these things, and you just mention why there was a reason for you to modify and what are the constructs in that particular questionnaire has been modified. For example, if you do UTA2 model for behavioral intention, it has got about 7-8 constructs. So in my research, I did not take 8 constructs. I took only 5 constructs, and I had a justification. So it has given a different findings, and this has been universally accepted. This has gone to the Scopus, and I can see a lot of people quoting my papers. So that's how, when you change, you see now we have Bloom's taxonomy, but Bloom's taxonomy has been criticized by many people, and they have redefined that particular model also. So what happens is now if they go and do their complete research, the findings may deviate. That's what the world is looking for, coming out of the box and getting into a new perspective. Okay, what others do, if you do, not interest. What others cannot do, that's what matters. So you have to be always out of the box. Always remember, my dear friends out there, research is God. Research leaves footsteps. The imprints, the foot imprints, whatever you leave is taken out from taken to other generation. So they will be quoting your paper, and your paper is so important for them. And if you're going to give wrong fabricated information, they are not going to be benefited. And even after your death, somebody will be criticizing what a paper they have written. So don't get all these karmas and go. Do a proper research. Okay. The reason why I'm telling you is I have not done any karma in my research so far. All my questionnaires have been very meticulously designed. I only do proper research. Okay, because if you want to do a research in Malaysia with a top university like UPSI, which is 100 years old in education, you need guts. Because remember, I'm an Indian doing a Malaysian PhD in education. So you really need guts, because all those people speak in Malay. I have to learn the Malay language. Go for it. 5 years, finish it. Again pay another 20 lakhs. And do your IT, artificial intelligence. Really, you need guts for that. Okay, so that's how I have gone challenging the research. And for me, everybody should also imbibe those qualities and give proper data analysis, not fabricate. I still remember on my first day when I went for distribution in one of the villages in Malaysia schools. The girl there asked me, "Sir, why don't you pick and bring it, sir? Why are you torturing us for the input?" I said, "Sorry, madam. I have traveled 170 kilometers. Please take it serious and please make sure it is distributed to your teachers and get me proper data." That hard work has been reflected in my thesis. When my thesis has gone to the hands of the external examiners, they have moderated from top people in Malaysia and also outside Malaysia. Dr. Bagaruddin, he is an e-learning expert. He has his doctorate in UA, master's from UK and PhD from US. Roslan Idrus, the pioneer in research industry in Malaysia. He was one of my external examiner. The most terror, the statistical giant, Professor Anand Kumar, he was my second PhD external examiner. All these giants came from my external examiner. But how could I defeat them with the challenges they faced? They placed in front of me with their questions. My first PhD exam, Viva, started by 10 o'clock in the morning, finished by 6 o'clock in the evening. But one good news about Malaysia is they don't leave anybody without food. They're pumping food and drinks. Okay, so I had enough food to survive, but remember how many questions they would have posted before ending up the day with my Viva. So all these challenges, if you are going to face, my dear friends, it should be your proper research designed with the dedication. Okay, if you see anybody talking like this, you put your own inputs, or just for the heck of it, they want to just ignore it. No worries. Okay, thank you for being with me today. And any more questions, if you have, I can go ahead. Otherwise, we can conclude this session. You can take down my email address, computerravi@gmail. It's very simple, computerravi@gmail.com. You can send mails. There are plenty of mails coming every day. I used to respond in my free time. Don't worry, definitely you'll get a response from me. computerravi@gmail.com. 6 participants raise the hands. Okay, no worries. I pass on to the session host.
Vinolia, proceed.
Sir, it was a wonderful session. It opened up our minds about the prerequisites of questionnaire, importance of validity, and how to procedurally validate the questionnaire. Thank you for the thought-provoking session, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gratitude is the fairest blossom which springs from the soul. Now it's time for vote of thanks. I deem it a great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks on behalf of the Faculty of Education and the Academic Staff College, Dr.MGR Educational and Research Institute. I take this opportunity to express our sincere thanks to the keynote speaker, Dr. Balan Radhakrishnan, Associate Professor, Faculty of Psychology and Education, University of Malaysia, Sabah, for gracing this occasion. Thank you, sir. Next, I would like to thank the speaker of this session, Dr. Ravichandran sir, Director of Research and HOD, Computer Science Department, Silicon City College, Bangalore. Sir, your presence today in this session have enlightened our minds and has enhanced the importance of today's session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
My sincere gratitude.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
My sincere gratitude to our Honorable President, Engineer ACS Arun Kumar sir, for providing this wonderful opportunity. My heartfelt gratitude to Dr. S. Geeta Lakshmi, ma'am, Vice Chancellor, Dr. MGR Educational and Research Institute, for her valuable time and support. Thank you, ma'am. I thank all the executives of Dr. MGR ERI for their help and counsel. My deep sense of gratitude to our beloved principal, Dr. K. Geeta ma'am, for her valuable thoughts and guidance in organizing today's event. Thank you, ma'am. I thank and appreciate all the HODs, professors, research scholars, and other participants from various colleges and universities for making this occasion a memorable one. Finally, I thank the technical team and the Faculty of Education for making the first day of this faculty development program a successful one. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, ma. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your timely support.
Always, as always. As always.
Maria, share the feedback link, no? Let them.
Yeah. Dear participants, attendance link have been shared in the chat box. Kindly fill it.